The 2023 NFL season is coming to a close, and there has been a lot of ups and downs throughout the first 16 weeks of the NFL season. Some players have had great years while others have not, but from a league-wide standpoint, 2023 is unlike any other year we've seen before. There's been countless things that have happened over the first few months of the year, and there is bound to be more as we exit the regular season and enter the postseason. Some teams and players, for that matter, have done what they were expected to do, but it seems like there are countless outliers, both good and bad, from the 2023 NFL season. In today's video, we are going to break down why 2023 is unlike any other year in NFL history, and in some cases, why it's almost impossible to evaluate some situations moving forward. In turn, this will impact how franchises construct rosters moving forward in a big way. Sure, you can get an idea on some players and teams, but others are a flat-out mystery. We are going to look at several situations, and there is a lot to dive into in today's video. Now let's begin. And we are starting today's video by discussing what the theme for a lot of teams in 2023 has been, and that of course is the backup quarterback. Once upon a time, there was a slogan or phrase used by NFL teams that said, "You are only as good as your backup quarterback," and in 2023, for several teams, that proved to be true. Some teams were unscathed by injuries at the position, and in fear of potentially jinxing that, we're not going to say which teams, but you have an idea, while others, like the Cleveland Browns, for example, are down to their fourth quarterback. Not every team that's down to their fourth quarterback has played as well as Joe Flacco has for the Browns, and that's an outlier relative to how most fourth quarterbacks would play in any given season. But for other teams that have been impacted by injury at the quarterback position, this is where the 2023 NFL season is almost unlike any other year we've seen. Sure, we've seen quarterbacks get injured in years past, and the rate for injury at the NFL level is 100% because of how demanding the league is, but teams like the Jets, Browns, Bengals, Colts, and Chargers, which is just one conference by the way, all have suffered season-ending injuries at the quarterback position. We live in a social media world where people want results faster than ever before, and that doesn't pertain to just getting your next day Amazon package. That also trickles into the NFL world, and I specifically look at a team like the Jets, who entered the year with Super Bowl expectations, and as one of the most hyped teams we've ever seen entering a regular season. Aaron Rodgers was supposed to lead this team through the vaunted AFC and bring this team a Super Bowl title for the first time since Joe Namath did all the way back in Super Bowl III, but as we know, that didn't happen, at least not in his first year with the Jets. That would be a sign of things to come for quarterbacks across the league this year. Obviously, we hope that isn't the case in 2024, but one thing I fully expect to happen this offseason is guys like Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew, Joe Flacco, depending if he plays next year, and hell, maybe Drew Lock will get paid a hefty chunk of change to go be someone's backup next year. That will be one of the most interesting storylines of the offseason, is how much backup quarterbacks get paid in 2024. Because one thing is for sure, NFL teams will overcompensate for something that ensuing offseason to ensure it does not happen again. That's almost always how it goes. An example of this is when teams draft corners or pass rushers to try and combat a fellow division team's strengths, and we saw that this year with the Patriots drafting Christian Gonzalez in the first round to try and combat Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Another example of this would be the immediate pick before Gonzalez, when Washington drafted corner Emmanuel Forbes to try and slow down A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, or another player that plays in Dallas by the name of Cedarian Lamb. We see it all the time, and for the first time in NFL history, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say a backup quarterback, maybe even multiple, but we'll see on that part, but at least one quarterback will get $10 million to sign and go be a backup somewhere. But the teams that we listed weren't the only teams affected by quarterback injuries. We had the Tommy DeVito story, and of course the Tyson Bagent story, as he went from playing the Colorado School of Mines during his final game for Shepherd in 2022 to playing the Las Vegas Raiders in the next game he started in 2023. Yes, Tommy and Tyson were fun stories and fun to be along for the ride, but the Giants and Bears didn't envision starting either of those guys entering the year. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say there has been more teams affected by injury at the quarterback position collectively across the league than we've seen in the 2023 NFL season. Next up is something pertaining to young quarterbacks, and like we addressed with the backup quarterbacks, I think this will be addressed in a big way this offseason as well. Specifically, we are looking at Bryce Young, Will Levis, and Sam Howell of the Washington Commanders. Entering the 2024 season, Howell is in a different category than Young and Levis, but the concepts we will discuss with Bryce and Will very much apply to Sam. Those concepts, of course, are sending a young quarterback to the Wolves, or putting them in the middle of the ocean in very choppy waters and saying, okay guys, we know this sucks, but what are you going to do? Will you sink or swim? This, of course, isn't to say these three are the first young quarterbacks to go through this, or to have a bad offensive line, or in Bryce and Will's case, bad receivers to throw the ball to, but the magnitude of how bad these teams are at the skill positions is astounding. The NFL is a copycat league, and teams will do things in order to not make themselves look like other teams across the NFL, and I thought we would have learned this lesson with Trevor Lawrence, but Bryce and Will's supporting cast this year were downright awful. It was good to see Bryce have his first game with 250 yards passing in Week 16 against Green Bay, and not only did he have 250 yards passing, but he eclipsed the 300-yard mark in this game too. Relative to each player's supporting cast during their rookie season, I think there is a little bit of a difference with Bryce and Trevor, as with Trevor during the 2021 Jag season, everyone knew they were going to be terrible, and they were, but they didn't give up as much as the Panthers did to go up and get Trevor, the way the Panthers did to go up and get Bryce. Jacksonville, of course, had the number 1 overall pick. So how I think this will impact future NFL organizations is not the trade-up part, because teams will ultimately do whatever they can to go get their quarterback of the future. That part won't change, but I think there will be a lot more caution with pieces they involve in trades to go up and get their quarterback of the future. DJ Moore. The Panthers' 2023 season was a disaster, and to be completely honest, you can have whatever opinion you want on Bryce Young right now, and it can be justified either way. Personally, I am under the belief that Bryce Young will be fine with time, and I think he will become a good NFL quarterback, but on the other side, if you think he's already broken beyond repair, while I don't agree with it, you can certainly justify having that take. Now, with a fellow rookie and 2023 draftee, the same concept applies to Will Levis. During the summer months when there is not a lot of new content coming out NFL-wise, we will break down a lot of rookies tape from the 2023 class, and Will Levis will be one of them. My interpretation from Levis's rookie year is that he was completely hung out to dry by the Titans organization. I know after the Atlanta and Pittsburgh game that people were quick to think the Titans have their next guy because Levis stood in and would take big hits and make big throws, and hell, I said the same thing. But as the season went on and Levis played more and more at the NFL level, sure, there were rookie mistakes and not great games, like when he played a Bucs defense that feasts on young quarterbacks making mistakes, but my big takeaway from Levis's rookie year is you can't definitively say he is or is not the guy. Generally speaking, you want to think positive and you want to think the Titans have a franchise quarterback because you want to project the best for both players and teams, which is why there was such a big initial reaction to the Falcons and Steelers games. But it's not an exaggeration to say Will Levis had one of the worst supporting casts in all of football in 2023, and during weeks 8 through 15, which is when Levis started as he missed week 16 due to an ankle injury, he had the 5th most drop passes out of any quarterback during this span. This is per PFF, by the way. This part being unlike any other season will happen in the future, but with the trade Carolina made to struggle as much as they did, I don't think we're going to see as big of a failure for a rookie quarterback, considering the circumstances, for a long time. Now, for Sam Howell, Sam was pretty much sent to the Wolves this year, and it was very ugly for him throughout the regular season. He was eventually benched, but through week 7, he was sacked 40 times, which had him on pace to get sacked 97 times during the 2023 regular season. This goes back to a point being made of offensive linemen do not hit the free agent market because of how tough they are to come by, but I really think in the future, teams will look at Sam getting killed out there and use this as an example of what not to do. For reference, over the next 8 games Sam played, he was sacked, I don't want to say just because this number is still high, but 20 times in 8 games compared to the 40 times he was sacked in weeks 1 through 7. Between franchises getting embarrassed, quarterbacks getting killed, or flat out hung out to dry, I don't think we're going to see another season quite to this level for some time. Next up is something I unfortunately expect to continue after the 2023 season, but I think 2023 is really the start of this, and this goes back to the era we live in where people want results more than ever before. That's fan bases wanting coach and tenured coaches fired because they lose 2 or 3 games in a row or whatever the case may be. Specifically, we are looking at Matt LaFleur in this scenario, and one thing I've seen Packers fans say is they want LaFleur gone because, and this is their wording, he's not a big enough man to fire Joe Barry and that he lacks accountability. There was a quote after the Panthers game in which Green Bay gave up 30 points to Carolina, which was their first 30-point game all season, and LaFleur said at one point in the post-game press conference that you have to give the defense a little bit of a breather so that they can rest up before they get back out there. I think we can all agree that's an insane thing to say, and I do agree with the Packers fans on the accountability part, especially when you put up 33 points as an offense, but while that may be true, does he need to be fired over something like that? Not the quote specifically, of course, but this is a head coach who is 54-27 lifetime as the Packers coach. He has won double the games he has lost, and if he were canned, there would be teams lining up to interview him before he got out of the building. This is also a rebuilding year for Green Bay, as they are an extremely young team. This isn't just a Packers thing either, and we see this across other fan bases. And hell, my team's fan base, the Vikings, has called for KOC's job at points throughout the 2023 season, despite being down to the 4th quarterback, and I think this is something that will only get worse as time goes on. This also isn't to say no coach should ever be fired mid-season, because guys like Josh McDaniels, Brandon Staley, and Frank Reich earned that, but the dismissal of a good head coach is egregious at times. I think Bill Belichick and Mike Tomlin are in different situations, and especially Bill, because Bill, the GM, has not been good for several years, and he's more or less made his bed. From 2014 through 2021, their first-round picks were Dominique Easley, Malcolm Brown, Isaiah Wynn, Sony Michel, N'Keal Harry, and Mac Jones. Aside from a 12 to 13 game span of Mac's rookie year, it's truly difficult to do worse than those picks over that 7-year span. Bill is a good head coach, but Bill is not a good drafting GM, and that's been proven with the play we've seen from the 2023 Patriots. He's also in a different situation due to the success they've had as a franchise, and given he is 71 years old, so I think the calling for Bill leaving the Patriots is justifiable. But for other coaches like LaFleur being a perfect example, I simply ask the question, what are we doing? The grass is not always greener on the other side. From a roster construction standpoint, NFL teams will pay big money to back up quarterbacks this offseason. Joe Flacco has proven why teams will, now more than ever, allocate the money to ensure if their quarterback goes down, they are not doomed from the start. The Panthers have shown what not to do when trading the future for a hopeful franchise quarterback. I think Bryce will be fine, but the situation he's in stinks. With the social media era only growing, fan bases become more and more impatient. That trend won't stop anytime soon. There will be a lot of deep dives coming up, and I will be launching a podcast after the new year, and I hope to see you guys over there. But that's all I have for today, and I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please like and subscribe, as only about 35% of people watching are subscribed, which has gone up, and I appreciate the support beyond measure. Until next time, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.